Hello there, you perfectly lovely little people. My name is Sarah and I've been reading from 101 Dalmatians by Dodie Smith. This evening I am finishing the chapter from last night, Miracle Needed. The pups sprang up, their exhaustion driven away by terror. "To the woods!" cried Pongo. Then he saw that the woods were now protected by wire netting, through which it was not even the smallest pup could squeeze, and there was no ditch to hide in. But he could see that the woods ended not far ahead. "We must go on," he cried. "There may be fields, there may be a ditch." The horn sounded again repeatedly. Pongo guessed that the fire engine had put out the fire, and now Cruella was scattering the villagers as she drove on her way. Already they would be less than 2 miles behind them, and that great striped car could travel 2 miles in less than 2 minutes. But the woods were ending, there were fields ahead. "To the fields!" cried Pongo. "Faster! Faster!" The pups made a great spurt forward, then fell back in dismay. For though the woods had ended, the wire netting still continued on both sides of them. There was still no way off the road, and the horn sounded again, louder and nearer. "Nothing but a miracle can save us now," said Pongo. "Then we must find a miracle," said Mrs. firmly. "Pongo, what is a miracle?" It was at that moment that they suddenly saw through the swirling snow a very large van drawn up on the road ahead of them. The tailboard was down and the inside of the van was lit by electric light. And sitting there on a newspaper was a Staffordshire terrier with a short clay pipe in his mouth. That is, well, it looked like a clay pipe. It was really made of sugar and had once had a fine long stem. Now the Staffordshire drew the bowl of the pipe into his mouth and ate it. Then he looked up from the newspaper, which he was reading as well as sitting on, excuse me, and stared in astonishment at the army of pups rushing helter-skelter towards him. "Help! Help! Help!" barked Pongo. "We're being pursued. How soon can we get off the road?" "Oh, I don't know, mate," barked the Staffordshire. "You better hide in my van." "The miracle! The miracle!" gasped Pongo to Mrs. "Quick, pups! Jump into the nice miracle," said Mrs., who now thought miracle was another name for a removal van. A swarm of pups surged up the tailboard. Up went the cad pig's cart, pulled from the front and pushed from behind. Then more and more pups jumped or scrambled up until the entire army was in. "Golly, there are a lot of you," said the Staffordshire, who'd flattened himself against the side of the van. "Lucky the van was empty. Who's after you, mates? Old Nick?" "Some relation of his, I think," said Pongo. The strident horn sounded again, and now 2 strong headlights could be seen in the distance. "And she's in that car." "Then I'd better put the lights off," said the Staffordshire, neatly working the switch with his teeth. "That's better." Pongo's heart seemed to miss a beat. Suddenly he knew that letting the pups get into the van had been a terrible mistake. "But the headlights will shine in," he gasped. "Our enemy will see the pups." "Not black pups in a black van," said the Staffordshire. "Not if they close their eyes." Excellent suggestion. Quickly, Pongo gave the command. "Pups, close your eyes or they will reflect the car's headlights and shine like jewels in the darkness. Close them and do not open them, however frightened you are, until I give the word. Remember, your lives may depend on your obedience now. Close your eyes, keep them closed." Instantly, all the puppies closed their eyes tight. And now the car's headlights were less than a quarter of a mile away. "Close your eyes, missus," said Pongo. "Don't forget to close your own, mate," said the Staffordshire. Now the car's powerful engine could be heard. The strident horn blared again and again, as if telling the van to get out the way. Louder and louder grew the noise from the engine. The glare from the headlights was now so intense that Pongo was conscious of it through his tightly shut eyelids. Would the pups obey orders, or would terror make them look towards the oncoming car? Pongo himself had a wild desire to do so and a wild fear that the car was going to crash into the van. The noise of the horn, the engine grew deafening. The glare seemed blinding, even to closed eyes. Then, with a roar, the great striped car was on them and past them, roaring on and on into the night. You may open your eyes now, my brave, obedient pups, cried Pongo, and indeed they deserved praise, for not one eye had been opened. It was quite a call, mate, said the Staffordshire to Pongo. You must have quite an enemy. Who are you, anyway? A local pat of soot hens? Then he started staring very hard at Pongo's nose. Well, swelp me, if it isn't soot. And it doesn't fool me. You're the missing Dalmatians. What, a lift back to London? A lift? A lift all the way in this wonderful van? Pongo and Mrs. could hardly believe it. Swiftly, the pups settled to sleep on the rugs and blankets used for wrapping around the furniture. But why are there so many pups? Asked the Staffordshire. The newspapers don't know the half of it, nor the quarter neither. They think there are only 15 missing. Pongo started to explain, but the Staffordshire said they would talk during the drive to London. My pets will be out of that house there any minute. Fancy us doing a removal on a Sunday and a Christmas Eve. But the van broke down yesterday and we had to finish the job. How many days will the journey to London take? Asked Mrs. Days? Said the Staffordshire. Won't take much more than a couple of hours. Oh no, my pets. They want to get home and finish decorating the kids' Christmas trees. Shh, hush now. Put it down, both of you. A large man in a rough apron was coming out of the nearby house. Mrs. thought, as soon as one danger is past, another threatens. Would they all be turned out of the miracle? The Staffordshire, wagging his tail enthusiastically, hurled himself at the man's chest, nearly knocking him down. Oh, look out, Bill, said the man over his shoulder. The canine cannonball's feeling frisky. Bill was an even larger man, but even he was shaken by the Staffordshire's warm welcome. Get down, you self-launched bomb, he shouted with great affection. The two men and the Staffordshire came back to the van and the Staffordshire jumped inside. The sooty Dalmatians huddled together, invisible in the darkness. Want to ride inside, do you? Said Bill. Well, it is cold. He put the tailboard up and shouted, Next stop, St. John's Wood. A moment later, the huge van took to the road. St. John's Wood? Surely that was where the splendid vet lived, quite close to Regent's Park. What wonderful, wonderful luck, thought Pongo. Just then he heard a clock strike. It was still only 8 o'clock. Mrs., he cried, we shall get home tonight. We shall be home for Christmas. Yes, Pongo, said Mrs. gaily. But she didn't feel as gay as she sounded, for Mrs., who'd been so brave, so confident up to the moment they'd found the miracle, had suddenly been smitten by a great fear. Suppose the Dearleys did not recognise them now that they were black dogs. Suppose the dear Dearleys turned them away. She kept her fears to herself. Why should she frighten Pongo with them? How fast the miracle was travelling, she'd thought of the days it had taken her and Pongo to reach Suffolk on foot. Why, it seemed like weeks since they'd left London. Yet it was only... How long could it only be? 4 days? They'd slept 1 day in the stable at the inn, 1 day at the Deer Spaniels, 1 day in the Folly, part of the night in the barn after they escaped from Hill Hall, then a day at the bakery. So much had happened in so short a time. And now, would it be all right when they got home? Would it? Would it? Meanwhile, Pongo had his own worries. He'd been telling the Staffordshire all about Cruella and had remembered what she had said that night at Hill Hall, how she intended to wait until people had forgotten about the stolen puppies and then start her Dalmatian fur farm again. Surely he and Mrs. would get this lot of puppies safely home. It never occurred to him that the Dearleys might not let him in. But what of the future? How could he make sure that other puppies did not end up as fur coats later on? He asked the Staffordshire's advice. Oh, why not kill this Cruella? Said the Staffordshire. And I'll help you. Let's make a date for it now. Pongo shook his head. He'd come to believe that Cruella was not an ordinary human, but some kind of devil. If so, could one kill her? In any case, he didn't want his pups to have a killer dog for a father. He would have sprung at Cruella if she'd attacked any pup, but he didn't fancy cold-blooded murder. He told the Staffordshire so. Your blood would soon warm up once you started the job, said the Staffordshire. Well, let me know if you change your mind, and now you take a nap, mate. You've still got quite a job ahead of you. The Staffordshire, like Mrs., wondered if the Dearleys would recognise these black Dalmatians, and if even the kindest pets would take in so many pups. But he said nothing of this to Pongo. Mrs., lulled by the movement of the van, had fallen asleep. Soon Pongo slept too, but their dreams were haunted by their separate anxieties. On and on, through the darkness, went the mile-eating miracle. We are getting so near to the end. I hope you've had a nice clean of your teeth, and I hope you've had a good wash of your hands. And now I want you to snuggle into your bed and give yourself a great big huge cuddle. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow evening for chapter 16, The White Cat's Revenge. Sleep well.